Hello, friends, welcome.
Wow.
Sometimes at a certain point, people just stop trying to explain themselves. No matter what they say, they're misunderstood, and no matter how clear they are, it feels like it doesn't lead anywhere. So, why do you think these people give up on explaining themselves? Is it really because no one understands, or is it to avoid facing things they no longer want to hear?
Both. Honestly, we encounter these situations quite often, both from observation and interpretation. So, at the root of this, there's actually a bit of this going on. There are two reasons. First, how accurately do people convey themselves to others? Secondly, people think that communication is mostly about talking, but research shows that only 7% of communication is made up of words. In fact, 93% is covered by body language, our tone of emphasis, and the way we express ourselves. Pay attention to this. I was really surprised when I first heard this information. But once you become aware and start observing, you really see that this is the case. So, as you said, it could be due to both reasons. That's why, firstly, people can't express themselves very accurately. Or, for example, they can't convey exactly how a negative emotion makes them feel with the right emphasis, tone, and body language. For example, let's say I'm uncomfortable with something you do. I don't want you to do it. If I very politely and kindly ask you not to do it and you resist, for example, I say, Yeshim, please don't do that, it bothers me. And you respond, what does that have to do with anything? So it means I wasn't able to fully convey to you how uncomfortable I was with what bothered me. In that case, I need to be a bit more firm and clear with you, right? Like, no, you really shouldn't do this. I don't want you to do this. It needs to be continued in this way. Secondly, let me give an example based on the response you gave. I'm making a request of you, taking into account not wanting to hurt you, about not doing it. And you respond to me with things like, what does that have to do with anything? Don't be ridiculous. So in this case, what are you actually telling me between the lines? That you don't care about Yeshimbe. Right? If I experience perhaps 100 examples like this with you, really, naturally, I won't want to tell you anything anymore, right?
Right? Yes.
Yes. If it becomes easier for me to just do something myself rather than ask you, I start not wanting to waste time trying to convince you. In other words, I prefer to do it myself. We experience this most of the time. I've observed that many people have this situation.
But if you stop sharing, don't people start to know you less? So, on one hand, you're protecting yourself, but on the other, don't you think you're becoming more isolated?
Yes, you do become isolated. Look, here's the thing. The world only changes if we change ourselves. Now, we can't just wait for people to change. Clients come to me and say, people don't understand me, my husband doesn't understand me, my wife doesn't understand me, my partner doesn't understand me, or I can't express myself properly to my friends. They don't understand me. I always ask them this. First of all, how well are you able to express yourself? Most of the time they try to express themselves with good intentions, but of course, since their awareness isn't very high, they often fail when it comes to communication. If we've already reached such a conclusion, look, it's actually easiest to change ourselves, okay? Don't worry. In other words, when two people who speak the same language communicate, they can accurately convey exactly what and how they feel to the other person. This isn't something related to interpretation. I said something strongly, decisively, and clearly. Yeshim, don't do this. It makes me uncomfortable. I want you to stop doing this. Now here, after the sound waves leave my mouth, they reach your ear. Your ear does what it's supposed to do. It transmits the sound waves to the brain, and the brain does what it's supposed to do. Now it interprets them, right? Your eyes also see my body language. How clear and determined I am. Now, from this point on, it's not about understanding or not understanding, it's about interpreting, all right? If you say to me, what does that have to do with anything? Then you're adding your own interpretation into it. I'm telling you clearly, don't do this, right? This is a request, a wish. In the next step, I need to be even clearer with you. Most of the time, people don't do this. So what happens then? Let me talk about that too. Now, there was something that bothered me. I asked you not to do it. It was something you did, and I asked you not to do it. And you told me, don't be ridiculous. So I didn't pursue it further. Then I start adapting to you, don't I? When this becomes widespread, don't think of it as just a single example. So what happens to us then? We start to lose our sense of self. We've talked about this in our videos too, right? We end up having to adapt. Okay, we can tolerate this for a while, but for how long? When we get really bored or overwhelmed, we need to realize that we shouldn't tolerate it any longer. But then people's fears and anxieties come into play. That's when what if I end up facing another negative situation again? We just talked about this with someone the other day, remember? For example, they say, I'm afraid of hurting people. If they get upset when I ask something from them, that upsets me too. So what does a person naturally do in this situation? Between two negative outcomes, well, for the amygdala, it's about approaching reward. Instead of avoiding punishment, we end up choosing the option that causes less pain. We choose the one that will hurt less out of two punishments, but in the long run, it makes us lonely. It also distances us from being ourselves.
So what does this silence eventually turn into? Peace, or as we just said, loneliness?
Loneliness? Loneliness, I mean, we don't actually have to talk a lot to explain or introduce ourselves to people, by the way. As I said at the beginning of the video, only 7% of communication is made up of words. If we express ourselves to people in the right way, now all of our brains are organs programmed to learn. Alright? People get to know us and act accordingly. They start to behave that way. Of course, if we stand firm and decisive, when the situations where we don't prefer this become excessive, it never really becomes peace anyway. In other words, in any situation where you can't express yourself, you won't feel at peace, you'll feel misunderstood. And feeling misunderstood, as it gets worse, leads to loneliness.
So, as we ask in every video, let me ask my final question. What should we do?
Let me explain. You know what else I observe, Yeshim? People who have these kinds of fears and anxieties, people who feel lonely and misunderstood, are actually sensitive people. They're polite people, you know. These are people who don't even have the potential to do harm to others. Generally. I'm speaking in general.
But they get hurt because they're not bad people.
They get hurt. Exactly. Now think of it this way. I mean, you're sure about what you want or what you're asking for. If you're asking for it with good intentions. So why are you holding back?
Should they maybe be a bit more assertive, perhaps, in their approach? A bit more?
More? I mean, it's not like that. It's not always about goodness and beauty. Negative emotions like feeling sad are also natural feelings that belong to people. Feeling sad, being loved, loving, getting angry. Let our emotions be negative too. These are our feelings. So we can experience these. Don't hold yourself back too much. You may not want to upset people, but sometimes they choose it themselves. So how will they get to know you? If you always adapt to the other person. Let me also ask this. Are you actually introducing yourself to the other person? Ask yourself this. Or how well do the people you often spend time with actually know you? If we asked, what would they say about you? Like, what color do they like? What do they enjoy doing? Most of the time, we probably hear this answer, right? Oh, they're a very easygoing person.
If being easygoing has reached this level in every aspect, maybe it's not so good.
Not. The important thing is balance. And even if there is tension in close, intimate relationships, we still have the comfort of it, right? Relationships are not broken. It continues.
I think there is also something wrong with this compatibility. There is something underneath it that is compatible with it.
The child goes further.
I think so too.
Yes, we can work on it.
Sometimes staying silent protects us. But in the end, it traps us inside ourselves. Maybe we need to learn to talk again, especially about the things we've kept silent about the most.
Yes, as you said, sometimes staying silent protects us.
Thank you.
Your comments are important to us. We'd appreciate it if you subscribe.
And support us.
For those who support us. It's nice to interact. See you in the next video.